My BMW E30 is finally up for sale. It is a 1984 BMW 318i two-door with a 3-speed automatic transmission and only 65,000 original miles. I mean, just take a look at the interior. It's definitely 65K. The seats are original, the carpets are original. It even has the original BMW floor mats in it, and the odometer is working, so it is correct. 65288. Now, I do really enjoy driving this car. We've done a lot of work to it, and we turned it into a nice, legal California smog driver. But I've started to just lose steam on it. I got interest in other projects, so we need to pass it off to somebody who's gonna enjoy this car properly. Here's a look at the engine bay. First thing I did was I put a new battery in it. Other things that I've done, we found a vacuum leak at the vacuum advance, so I replaced the entire distributor. That distributor failed, so I put another distributor in it. It's got brand new spark plugs. It's got brand new spark plug wires. I resealed the valve cover and cleaned that up with a new gasket. I've also adjusted all of the valves. I replaced and adjusted the idle air control valve. We've also replaced this fuel injection component up here. I replaced all of the vacuum lines as well as another vacuum line down underneath the throttle body, and it has a new thermostat. Now, I've also flushed every single fluid inside this car, and I have a video over here showing that. I did the brake fluid flush. I did a power steering flush with a new filter. I did an AMSOIL engine flush with the oil service. We did a coolant flush, and I drained and filled the transmission and resealed the transmission pan gasket. Let's fire it up. I'll show you how it runs, and then we'll go over all the other things that I've done on this car, and I'll explain what the car needs as well. Boom, she just fires right up. I got the idle pretty well dialed in. It jumps into a high idle once I first fire it up, just about 1200 RPM, and let's just drop it down into drive. RPMs come down just to that perfect 800-900 range. Back to park, and the idle creeps up just a little bit. So I think it's right within that money range. Now, I had to California smog this thing, and it is what, like 43 years old? So the fact that I was able to get this thing to pass in California with a tailpipe sniffer was a real feat. I was really stoked that we got that done. Here's a look in the engine bay. She could use a fan shroud, but other than that, you know, the engine is running pretty damn solid. She has absolutely no leaks. There is no fluids underneath this vehicle dripping whatsoever. So I'm quite proud of that as well. I also put a new air filter and a new fuel filter in this thing. See that power steering fluid is just nice and red. Brand new bottle, brake flush, she's dialed in. While she's warming up, let's take a little bit closer look at the interior. The seat slide mechanism here on the driver's side wasn't working well, but I do have a video of me taking these seats out and getting that fixed up. The rear seat is in really, really nice shape. I haven't even done a fluid extraction on any of these seats, but the back parcel shelf is in really nice shape. The interior is in really nice shape. The headliner is practically mint with the exception of a couple blemishes on the sunroof cover. That's to be expected with a 43-year-old car. This is really the only interior piece that's missing is right here, but that would be an easy fix. Passenger seat in really nice shape. Passenger footwells all really nice and clean as well. And here's a look at that center console from the back seat. It's got a manual crank sunroof, that works. It also has a tilt feature as well. And I mean, for the most part, everything just works. It's actually a 65,000 mile survivor. I gotta say, the seats are pretty damn comfy too. It reminds me of my very first car, which was a Jeep Cherokee, and it just had nice cushy back seats, and I was a big fan. Here's a look at driver's side door panel and passenger side door panel. I also have the original service booklet dating all the way back to the purchase date of 1983, and this was purchased at Beverly Hills BMW in Los Angeles. We have a stamp for the very first oil service. On top of that, we have the original owner's handbook, and you know, they just don't make handbooks like they used to anymore. This thing has tolerances for the valves. It also gives you measurements for the belt. It gives you factory gaps for the spark plugs, and it actually shows you how to do basic repair processes and maintenance. I mean, look right here. We have details on talking about smooth power delivery in regards to the air filter and spark plugs. I have some new roundels that came with the vehicle with the purchase. I even have the eye that came off of the trunk lid. And the previous owner saved that. I bought this locally here about 2 years ago, and I even have services here from BMW of Humboldt Bay. And the transmission was actually replaced before I bought this car here at my local BMW dealership. Here we have some old invoices from my local BMW dealership. Plastic selector lever was installed, seatbelt retainers, safety inspection. We had 4 tires installed at the dealership, plus alignment, replacement of hood shocks, replacement of glove box assembly, replacement of the flex disc. Looks like it had an oil leak diagnostic done. It had an inspection 2 service. Brake fluid flush was done way back in the day. Coolant flush was done. They stayed on top of it. They even adjusted the emergency brake here. Replaced front shocks, bump stops, and dust boots. Replaced both front lower control arm bushings, coolant and fuel hoses. This is a $1,000 invoice for replacing the heater core and tubes and hoses going to the heater core. Pressure tested it. And a windshield wiper relay, which I ended up replacing myself actually. Brake pedal pad was installed, just all those little things that keeps a car driving nice. Here they replaced the fan clutch, no shroud equipped on early 318. And here's a quote for 2019, they replaced the starter assembly, and that is right here. I actually replaced the starter again because that one was getting stuck. Let's put her up in the air, I'll show you what the undercarriage looks like. Alright, let's go for a tour underneath, starting with the front end. Now, like I said, that oil pan gasket is dry. I resealed it, and I also repainted that pan. Front right strut looks to be in great shape. I actually have brand new sway bar links for this thing that I have not installed. Here's a look at the serpentine belt assembly. This has a 3-belt system, and I actually have all 3 belts for replacement. I just haven't installed them yet. Driver side strut assembly, looking good. I also have that sway bar link, and both brake hoses in the front and passenger side were both replaced. I replaced every single soft brake line in this entire car. Here's a look at the trans pan. That was resealed with a new gasket. All the lines over at the bell housing are nice and tight, no leakage. Here's a look at the bottom of the trans. I mean, this car has less oil underneath than most modern BMWs. I mean, as far as the undercarriage goes, maybe that's like the only spot of rust I've ever seen on this undercarriage. Even the exhaust is in really nice shape. The control arms, the front subframe, for a 43-year-old car, it is still in really nice shape. Rack and pinion's not leaking, boots are all intact. It looks really good. The brake pads in the front have plenty of life, and the calipers and the entire brake system is working really well. Here's a look at the rear end. The shocks are dry, the CV axles are dry, no torn boots. And like I said, when I replaced all the fluids, I forgot to mention, I also did a rear differential service. So that has all fresh new fluid in there. And then if you look up here, you can see these shiny brake hoses. Like I said, I replaced every single soft rubber brake line on this entire car. So all those are refreshed. Now, like I said up front, we have really no rust back here. The undercarriage is really mint. The exhaust is all in good shape, except we do have one pinhole right here just below where the tailpipe enters into the muffler. So just the tiniest little exhaust leak. I also rebuilt the rear drums. I put on new drums, new shoes, new hardware kit, new lines, and the brakes have been fully gone through. Front and rear, the brakes are dialed in. Now for the trunk, let's take a look in there before we go over to the exterior. It's got the factory toolbox set, but it is missing a couple pieces. Still have the screwdriver in there. It did come with some exterior pieces, which I thought was interesting, but the car actually has a set currently on them. If you look at these are these rear quarter panel plastics, but these ones that are on the car are in much nicer shape, so it comes with some extras. I also have the front driver's side floor mat that I just cleaned up, and then these are just some interior panels for the glove box and underneath the steering wheel that I have to get reinstalled before I ship the car out. Other than that, the trunk is in really nice shape. All the carpet's still in good shape. Now, the one notable mention is this car does have some exterior rust. So you can see we have a rust hole there. Just started recently getting some water intrusion into the trunk. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so it's a pretty wet climate. That's going to be the biggest tackle on this car, is getting all these little rust spots removed. But I mean, it's a 43-year-old car. It's lived on the California coast its whole life, so it's kind of to be expected. Here you can see that brand new starter. I also replaced that intake hose here coming from the air box. And before we jump over to the exterior, one more thing. I have a bunch of extra engine components that are coming with this car. Now over here, thanks to Mr. Rob's Weekend Garage, if you don't know him on YouTube, He is a BMW content creator. He hooked me up with a bunch of extra BMW E30 components. So we have all different types of fuel injection components, different fuel injection modules for inside the glove box. We also have a new DME. We have a mass airflow sensor. I have the old starter. I have brand new engine mounts that need to go in the car. I saved the old thermostat. This is the old wiper relay. This is another fuel injection component. I have those 3 belts that I mentioned. And then inside here is the sway bar links. And then this is the last distributor I put in it. And then this was the very first distributor I put in it. So it has 2 spare old distributors that could be rebuilt as well. Also, big bonus, an extra idle air control valve. Those are pretty hard to find nowadays on eBay. And an oxygen sensor that Rob hooked me up with. So we're gonna be shipping all these extra parts out with the car, no extra cost. I also installed a new air intake temperature sensor too. Now before I shut the hood, just to look at these interior panels, again, just little spots of rust here. Needs to be cleaned up. It hasn't had a bath in a little while, but we'll give her a little polish before we take some pictures of her. Little bit of just barely scaling on top of that front end assembly there. And on the bottom side of the hood, really not much to mention for rust. Maybe a little bit there, just surface rust, just getting through the paint. Other than that, the bottom side of the hood is in pretty good shape and can be saved 100%. As far as the top of the hood goes, again, just some small little rust spots. They aren't really through yet, just got through the paint, and I haven't given this thing a wash in a long time, so these rust spots have just slowly bled down onto the white paint and have made a little bit more of a mess. Here you can see, you know, we're starting to get some rust down into the base metal. It's through the paint, but no holes through the hood or anything like that. So I think it can still definitely be cleaned up. You can use the original hood. Let's start with the grille assembly and the front bumper, and then we'll work our way down the sides and end at the trunk. We got some cool factory fogs. This does have the USA style bumper, so it does have those gas struts in there. Euro bumper on this car would be really nice. Headlights, turn signals, all the bulbs are working just fine, and the grille is in really nice shape. No breaks, no cracks. Bottom lip of the bumper is in good shape too. Just a little bit of surface rust there on the front end. Front passenger fender is actually one of the nicer fenders. Maybe just a little touch there, one little spot there, but going down to the molding all the way down to the rocker, it actually looks really good. Not much to report on this one. And inside the wheel wells, we have all of our factory panels installed. Nothing's missing, all the hardware is in place. And again, we got that brand new brake hose right there. The wheels are these original 14-inch bottle cap, 4-lug, but they're in good shape. The tires need replacing. All the tires on this car, let's find a date code for you. They're from 2012, so these tires are 13 years old. You can see some dry rotting and some cracking there, so this car's been due for tires for a little while. I've put a couple 100 miles on it and hadn't had a problem yet, but I would definitely get them replaced if you're planning on doing any long drives with a car like this. Down to the driver's side door, we still have good intact factory plastics. Those can probably be cleaned up. All of the chrome trim still looks to be in good shape. Here at the B pillar, these look to be clean as well. And then running down this trim piece, you can see a couple little spots of rust there. Nothing's really gone all the way through yet. Again, it's just gone through that base coat and it's started to etch into that metal on the door, but nothing's really gone through and created any holes yet. I only have one key for this vehicle and it only came with one key. So down here at the rocker underneath the driver's side, again, some little spots of surface rust, but nothing's really gone through like it has in the rear. So I'll give you a little bit better look at that. And again, just a little bit of surface rust coming through here, down into the jamb for driver's side. And we have our original stickers. Now to the rear left, this glass was actually just replaced. I sourced a used BMW glass, so it is original. Rock caught it from the weed whacker and ended up shattering that glass, but I got it replaced and we put a new seal in there as well. Here we can see again just some other little spots of surface rust. Center molding's in good shape. Rocker and pinch seam is in good shape. Wheel wells are in good shape. I don't think this car has ever had an accident. I haven't seen any evidence of it yet. Again, same age on these tires, 2012. They could use replacing. Same bottle caps. And again, those drums, pads, and hardware and everything in the rear brake assembly has been replaced. Here we're starting to see a little bit more severe of rust, but it hasn't gone all the way through yet. Then let's work our way back to the very back left corner of the vehicle. Now here is one of a little bit more of the severe spots. You can see it's starting to eat in, but that's what this car is going to need. It's going to need some exterior body work. I'm not a body work guy, and I'm going to move on to some OBD2 cars that I really truly enjoy, but somebody's going to really love this car and they can turn it into a project and get this rust fixed up, or go for sort of a patina type paint job, leave the rust, maybe even make the rust more visible and do a bit of a cool, unique paint job on it like that. But here's that spot inside the trunk lid where it's finally starting to get through. The electric motor for the antenna works just fine, and it comes up when I do turn the radio on. So here's a look down inside that trunk seam. One little hole there, a little bit of rust starting to create there. Down underneath the trunk lip, looks to be in good shape, just a little bit of debris. Another hole through here down into the taillight assembly. And then I haven't noticed anything going through here yet, just some water and pine needles collecting. We have a little bit of a hole that has gone through right there, right below the window trim. As far as the trunk lid goes, like I showed you, I have that eye over there with the service documents, and the top of the trunk lid looks to be in really good shape. I wouldn't say really good shape, but it looks to be in okay shape. The roundels could use replacing, but as far as the rest of the trunk lid goes, no real surface rust. Then back down here to the rear end and the tail lights, they are complete. All of them are functioning, including the license plate lights. And then again, we have that US spec bumper, so it does stick out a little bit. But underneath the bumper, it looks to be really clean too. Moving over to the rear right, again, we have that spot that I showed you just down below that rear window trim. Our fuel door looks to be in good shape. Maybe a little bit starting right there. And then down here to the right side, right rear. This is one of the worst spots. We're starting to get a little bit of scaling there, a little bit of penetration down through there through the hole. And again, you know, I just haven't been washing this car. A lot of this stuff will come off. You can see it getting already down to white paint, just touching it with my fingernail. So that'll clean up. But it does need some rust repair. Some more spotting there on the right rear. All the way down, same story, 2012 tire, pretty nice looking wheels, still in really nice shape. I would just slap some rubbers on there and keep driving the thing and focus on the rust repair. The rear shocks are in good shape, no leak in there. And then moving our way down through this right rear window. Again, some other little rust spots here, hasn't gone all the way through, just through the base coat. Down to the pinch seam, all in good shape, rockers look in good shape. Now on to the right door. Inside the door jamb, similar story to the driver's side. Jamb looks clean, except for down here, we're starting to get just a little bit of surface rust. Right there, a little bit right here, but nothing's gone through. As far as the inside of the door seam goes, we have a little touch right here, just some cobwebs. And then as far as the bottom side of the door goes, that still looks to be in clean shape. Passenger mirror looks to be good. They both have electric mirrors on driver's side and passenger, and they work great, and all of the window cranks left and right side are working as well. Down here to the front right fender, again, little spot here, little spot there, one coming in right here, little nick, couple little spots right here. But other than that, the front two fenders are totally savable with a little bit of rust repair. No holes are through yet. And again, inside this fender well, it is complete. The shocks and struts are in good shape, and all the panels and hardware are there. So now on to the part where I know you guys are most curious about: price point. I originally bought this car just over 2 years ago for $2,500. It had been sitting for 4 years. It was a non-op registration. I cleaned up the interior a little bit just with a good vacuum, but the car could still be cleaned up a lot more than it is now, and the chrome and all the metal pieces on the exterior can be polished up. Now, what would I like to get for the car? I would be super happy with $5K. I think that's reasonable. It has a bunch of extra parts as well as a bunch of rare fuel injection components to go with this 1984. I've probably put well over $2,000 into it between the brake hoses, the components, the starter, all the different eBay purchases, and I think it's got great value with all of the components that it's coming with. Now, I wanted to make a video just letting you guys know that this thing is for sale and getting it out there. I'll be posting this thing on Bring a Trailer once we get a little bit more sunshine and I can get some proper photos taken and I can give this thing a good bath. but I'd really like to see it go to someone within the community if someone wants to pick it up. Now, after about a week from posting this video, I will be listing this thing on Bring a Trailer for no reserve, so you can bid through that, or you can shoot me an email at dayoffdiy@gmail.com if you are interested. I think $5K is a fair price. I put a lot of time, I've put a lot of labor into it, and if I break even or even take a little bit of a loss, I'd be happy with that. So 5K OBO is going to be the number. Now, apologies for the glare, but I do have a playlist documenting every single repair I've done on this car. It's a playlist called 1984 BMW E30 318i. We have our very first video from 1 year ago, saving a forgotten BMW E30 after sitting for 4 years. We have the inspection, we have the wipers, the seat, and the odometer fix. We have the entire rear brake rebuild. We had replacing the distributor and timing the ignition, replacing every single fluid, trying to diagnose why the smog failed, more diagnosis of the fuel injection, and then we have this thing finally getting legal again after my smog and getting those smog results in. So if you would like more information, more videos on the car, I have several hours worth of content on this vehicle that you can familiarize yourself with. Now, this video is going to be short and sweet. I just wanted to get sort of a detailed overall explanation on the vehicle out to you guys. I'd really like to get it to a community member, keep it inside the family, but I'm open to any and all opportunities. I just really like to get my money back out of the vehicle so we can continue investing into new projects, whether it's an E46, E39, the twin turbo E90, and keep working on some OBD2 cars. So 5K OBO is the number, guys. If you are interested, again, shoot me an email at dayoffdiy@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. And as always, folks, I will see you on my next day off. Cheers, everybody.